Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Niger once again. Today was supposed to be the finale of the Monday Night Wars, but admittedly, I'm not quite fully prepared for that yet. So we're going to push it back until tomorrow. But in the meantime, I'm something I want to do instead. What if you've noticed, if you've been on the channel for a little bit, if this is your first time here on the channel, welcome. If not, welcome back, of course. But if you've been on the channel for a little bit, what what we slash I like to do is speculate. We like to speculate as to what could happen and if X, Y, and Z happen. And the world of pro wrestling is filled with speculation, of course. And this is one that a lot of people have kind of speculated and talked about for quite a bit. It's a question I want to at least seek to potentially answer today. Hey, what would happen if WWE and AEW did a crossover? For all intents and purposes, WWE and AEW are arguably two of the biggest promotions in the world right now. The two biggest wrestling promotions in the world right now, or at the very least in North America. But what would happen if these two who did a crossover show? Oh, what would go down? Let's talk about it now. Right off the bat, admittedly, I know deep down this probably isn't gonna happen, and through a combination of pettiness, it's not wanting to play ball, stuff like that. Now, could it happen someday? I'm sure it's a possibility. I know a lot of people probably said the same thing about TNA. Now, look at the working relationship between WWE and TNA now after being rivals for some years. But at the same time, unless I'm mistaken, I'm fairly certain TNA never called WWE Harvey Weinstein. But of course, with it being speculation, and we kind of subvert reality a little bit. It's suspend disbelief for the time being. And so, if we were to say, hey, have Triple H and Tony Khan come to an agreement and shake hands, bury the hatchet or what have you, and put on a show together, what would it look like? Is essentially what we're going to answer. Now, there are two routes that I think could be taken. Both are rather interesting. One a bit more interesting than the other, but I'd say both are very interesting routes. The first one being a crossover event, similar to what AEW does with Forbidden Door, where they collaborate with New Japan Pro Wrestling, having an event featuring WWE stars, AEW stars going head to head. And now, how I imagine you'd have some AEW stars fighting AEW stars, and having some WWE stars fight WWE stars, but you would also want some crossover. Admittedly, I'm a bit hesitant to put championships on the line for the show, only because we know that there's probably no chance that a WWE star would go home with an AEW championship, and vice versa. So I don't know if you necessarily want to put AEW championships or WWE championships on the line, and for a crossover show like that, but just a crossover show having WWE and AEW kind of go at it, kind of have the best WWE collide with some of the best AEW, fulfill some of the dream matches that a lot of people want to see between both sides. But the other option is a bit easier, and could lead to just as much intrigue, and that being, what if AEW participated in the Royal Rumble? Well, the Royal Rumble has a history slash reputation for having surprise entrance, and even surprise entrance from other companies. Lest we forget when Mickie James, who is the current TNA Knockouts champion, showed up in the Women's Royal Rumble in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So having AEW stars or be in the Royal Rumble, I think would be pretty cool. Well, now the question is, how would it integrate? How would you integrate AEW stars into the Royal Rumble? For starters, I would have it be 4 slots. I would have 4 slots open for 4 AEW stars. And I kind of put in a hierarchy. And we have a hierarchy throughout the Rumble itself. So, at the lower level, such as like early on in the match, like number 3 or 4, kind of just an appetizer. You'd have you'd have more, I guess, jobber level AEW stars making their way into the Rumble. That have other guys that aren't really featured as quite as much on like AEW TV and stuff like that. But then, and later on in the match, I'd say probably like around 11 or 12 or so. Then you'd have your kind of lower mid card guys. You'd have some of your lower mid carders from AEW, those who are sizable enough but without them necessarily being jobbers, have them appear in the match. Then, and as we move into the late teens, maybe early 20s, then you have your upper mid card star, such as maybe such as like Jack Perry, the TNT champion, or superstars like that, have them appear or around around the late teens, like 18, 19, or early 20s, like 20, 21, maybe even 22. And then finally, I would leave the number 30 slot to the main event talent, and obviously like your Kenny Omegas, your John Moxleys, your MJFs, or possibly even Chris Jericho's. I'll leave that to the main eventer, or even have maybe the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland and show up in the Rumble. So that kind of divvies it up, and that kind of intermingles it into kind of how WWE's format with like the Royal Rumble and stuff, and you get some of that crossover. You get the crossover. You get the interactions between the AEW stars and the WWE stars. So that's how I would do it when it comes to a Royal Rumble format. But I do kind of want to circle back to the event. What type of matches would I have at a WWE / like AEW crossover event? And I would have matches that a lot of people wanted to see, kind of dream matches that a lot of people want to see. For example, just as a couple I can think of off the top of my head, had Bryan Danielson versus like Ilya Dragunov. Even though Danielson is probably not gonna there's a good chance he's not gonna wrestle anymore after this Sunday at All In, which obviously we'll get to when we do our All In predictions. So we have that. We can have some of like the former stars who came over from WWE over to AEW kind of face off with like the WWE stars, such as like Seth Rollins versus like John Moxley, or even possibly Roman Reigns versus John Moxley. Excuse me. You get some tag team action in there. You finally get that Young Bucks Usos match, perhaps. Has Ann, and then in the main event, and they could do like a big like main event caliber match, or they can do champion versus champion, and whether it be the world heavyweight champion or the undisputed WWE champion. I imagine you'd probably want to go with the undisputed WWE champion. No disrespect, of course, to the world heavyweight championship or the ring general Gunther, but the WWE championship is kind of in that position. It's like the top prize. As obviously the world championship is also among there, but the world heavyweight championship, I should say. But the WWE championship is kind of in that position, like that top prize. So having like the WWE champion Cody Rhodes going against the AEW World Champion, that being Swerve Strickland, and the reason I'm bringing those names up is because these are the people who are champions at the time of recording, and so having them face off in the main event, I think would be a pretty interesting main event, especially considering the extensive history of Cody with AEW, the fact that he was pretty much one of the people who founded AEW. and one of its like early stars and left for WWE and stuff like that. So stuff like that is kind of how I would do it. Pay per view length. I know AEW tends to book a lot of matches on the pay per views. WWE tends to book only a few matches on their pay per views. So I would say meet in the middle. I'd say probably like 7 or 8 match card. I think it would be suitable, and everybody kind of gets what they want. But I think that's kind of how I would do it. Like I said, do I think a crossover between WWE and AEW is going to happen? Probably not anytime soon. It'd be cool though, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But it would still be really cool to see. If Triple H and Tony Khan ever do come together, then it'd be interesting to see what they do in terms of crossover show. I know Tony Khan, admittedly, Tony Khan's kind of gone back and forth, between trashing in WWE and stuff like that versus then him wanting to work with WWE, and it's even left AEW fans confused, as well as obviously WWE fans. And me, I'm kind of in both camps. I'm kind of the Mercutio in a way. Really, the whole like tribalism with the fan base and stuff I think is pretty dumb. I enjoy both WWE and AEW, but that's a crossover show. I think would be really cool, and there's quite a bit of mileage and quite a bit of interesting creativity and stuff like that you can get out of it. If they decide to do a crossover show, but we'll have to wait and see if that does ever come to fruition. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this little discussion video. Excuse me. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. And let me know in the comments, do you want to see a WWE and AEW crossover show? Me, I think it would really help business on both ends. I think WWE fans would probably be into it. I think AEW fans would probably be into it, and hopefully the show wouldn't be weighted to too much to one side where it feels like a WWE show or it feels too much like an AEW show. I do kind of want them to meet in the middle where you kind of get the best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana used to say. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.